Hey guys, Parfax here, and today we are going to give you another tier list Wednesday video. All right, let's get started. So as you can see here, we are on Tier Maker, and we are doing another tier list video. Today, we're going to be doing a video on the best weapons to pair with the Greatsword. Now, before we dive into the tier list and we start ranking all of these weapons, I do want to say one thing right off the bat, and that is kind of go over what the criteria is for. We are basing this on mainly PvP, and with it, we want to understand a little bit about the Greatsword. The Greatsword does a couple things very well. It has very good survivability on the right side of the tree, the Defiant side of the tree, and on the Onslaught side of the tree, it has a lot of damage. Where it really lacks is hard CC. It has a 1-second root that, well, if depending on where you hit it, you can basically not even follow up on it. And then it has a couple staggers, which are pretty good. Now, it does have one suction as well, but it doesn't have any stuns or knockdowns. So we're going to rank these according to that, and it also doesn't have a lot of maneuverability. It does have one haste passive and one basic movement skill. It's not really a movement skill, but it does get you a little bit farther, so technically it kind of falls in that category. But the weapons that I'm going to rank at the highest are probably going to be weapons that really help with that deficiency. Next, I want to talk about the S through D. D doesn't mean you should never pair it. This is just an arbitrary, basically like top tier down to probably the worst weapons. And we're going to start off by putting a couple weapons right in the D tier. We're going to put Fire Staff, Life Staff right there. You can argue, and I'm sure you guys will, it'll be great with the Life Staff. Well, the problem with it is you go on the tanky side, but if you go on the tanky side, there's just a lot better options because it's essentially an all-in play style. Because you don't have any maneuverability on the Life Staff, you're essentially just relying on yourself to dodge out of whatever you need to do. And if you're going against any weapon that has any maneuverability at all, they're just going to track you down. So I don't think it's very good with the Life Staff at all for PvP. I can see it maybe being used in PvE, but when it comes to PvP, people will use it with the Life Staff, but it's not going to be that good. Next, we're going to rank the Ice Gauntlet. Ice Gauntlet's a little bit interesting here. It doesn't really give it any maneuverability at all. You can get away a little bit with the Ice Gauntlet. The Ice Gauntlet's not that great of a catch tool, but it is a great kind of, if you're getting chase tool, you can put down your Ice Shower and Ice Storm, and you can basically get away from most people. We're going to put Ice Gauntlet in the B category. Honestly, it probably should be down at C. You're not going to see too many with it. If you're going the Ice Gauntlet build, I am definitely going a mix of strength and dex, strength and dex, maybe even going 300 strength. But the Ice Gauntlet, I'm not going to scale this off in it as well. If you go to scale this off int, I'm putting it straight down here in the D category. But if you're just going to scale the Greatsword and then use the Ice Gauntlet only as utility, we'll put it in the, I got to put it in the C category. I'm sorry. We're going to, it's like C plus, B minus type. We'll put it in B because you guys really get upset when I put stuff too low on the list. So we're going to put the Ice Gauntlet at B. Next, we have Sword. And Sword, man, I definitely think this is probably going to be, it's either S or A tier. I'm going to put it in, okay, I'm going to be biased here. I'm going to put it in S tier. I'm not saying it's the best, but it really makes up for the deficiencies of the Greatsword. It has a gap closer with a stagger and leaping strike. It has a stun with bash. And then I like to use Fortifying Shield Rush as another stagger, get some extra defenses on there. And it is just, I love the sword. It's probably my favorite melee weapon right now. The Greatsword may be able to take over, but when it comes to PvP, I love the sword. So double sword build coming next patch. That's actually what I've been gearing up for. We'll see when it comes to Fresh Start server if that's what I level with. But the sword is an absolute amazing weapon, and it is great to pair with it. Honestly, it probably should be an A, but I'm a little biased, so I'm putting it up in S, so sue me. Next, we're going to probably upset some people, and we're going to take Bow, and we're going to put it in the B category. I understand it scales off dex. I understand the Bow needs a secondary weapon, but it doesn't do anything. The Greatsword is an all-in weapon. and it just doesn't pair well with a bow. Bows, you are typically pretty squishy. What do you not want to do as a squishy class? Well, that has become more squishy with the onslaught side of the tree. If you're going to use a weapon to just get away from people, the Rapier, the Warhammer, heck, even the Hatchet is better at it than the Greatsword. The Greatsword has no escapability pretty much at all, unless you want to get one shot after using your Relentless Rush ability, because you're going to take 20% extra damage. So definitely B, you can run it for sure, and who knows, I might try it out as well. But when it comes to PvP, it's probably not going to be a weapon that is going to be too efficient at all to pair with. Musket, honestly, we're going to put it in C only because it does scale with Dex. But honestly, you're never gonna run Greatsword Musket. It literally does nothing for the weapon. I could see more of an argument for Life Staff to be paired with it than Musket, but we're gonna put it in the C category just because you can actually scale it off of Dex, and the Musket main scales off of Dex, so it will do some damage. But yeah, you're just gonna put it in C and just leave it there. You're never gonna play Greatsword with it. All right, next is Blunderbuss. Now, I'm not too much of a Blunderbuss aficionado, but I have played a little bit with it, and I have seen a lot of people play with it. We're going to put it in the A category, mainly because I'm not 100% sure on this one. The Blunderbuss really kind of wants to get close enough to you, and the Greatsword really doesn't give you that ability. It does have some tankiness on the right-hand side of the tree, the Defiant side of the tree, which can help, but it doesn't really close the gap too much. It just has some staggers that'll help. And maybe if you're getting attacked a lot, you can use, the Righteous Parry to knock your targets back and get a little bit more distance if you need that. But we're going to put an A category. They do scale both off of strength. And I have seen a lot of people run it, but I haven't seen anybody be too incredibly effective with it. The one thing it does have going for it is, remember I said you really need some maneuverability, but if you have ranged, like the Blunderbuss, it is better. And before you go, Parfax bow has ranged as well. But bow, you're super squishy, and typically you run more of a tanky bow with Blunderbuss, and you don't want to go on the offensive side of the tree with the Greatsword when you already are really squishy, because you're just going to get absolutely nuked down. So we're going to put it in A category, mainly because I think it's going to be decent. I don't think it's going to be insane, but I'm not 100% sure on this one. I'm not really 100% sure on any of these. These are just all speculation, so I'm sure you guys will all roast me in the comments and be like, Parfax, this is S tier, Parfax, this is D tier. You're dumb. But yeah, so A tier for that. Next, we have Warhammer, which is probably the weapon I've seen a lot of people hyped about, but I haven't seen that many people run. Now, we're going to put this in A tier. And here, oh, that's Hatchet. We're going to put it A tier, and here's why. I think in Wars, this could be S tier. I think this could be, one of your builds. We'll tell why I don't think this is going to become the meta here in a minute. But it does provide that CC that you need. The only problem is you don't really have that catch. But if you're playing in OPRs that are kind of group focused, and you're playing in, wars that are group focused, you can have a couple of these builds, and they will be dominant. You will scale 300 strength, probably 200 con, go in there and absolutely wreck face, hit them with a shockwave, wrecking ball, whatever ability. You're not going to use wrecking ball. Yeah, you are. Okay, you're full chads. You're going to use Wrecking Ball. But, you're going to go in there and just annihilate them with the Warhammer and then hit them with some Greatsword. So we'll see. I think it's A because I don't think it can be S, because I think there are a few weapons that kind of cover all of its deficiencies, where the Warhammer really just covers one of them, but it does it pretty well. Next, we have the one that I'm probably least sure of. I think definitely this is going to be A or S. I'm more leaning towards the A route. I think PvE-wise, this combo is great. I've been leveling with this on the PTR, Hatchet, and Greatsword, sorry. And this is a massively, insanely good combo. But when I think in PvP, I think I'm going to just be very safe and put it in A. I can definitely see a case to be made for S. It does have one decent CC ability. It does have some gap closing potential with Berserk, but it doesn't do either one of those particularly well. Typically, the Hatchet is set up by another weapon. So there is a chance that this becomes very, very powerful, because both weapons really like to be scaled off of strength and dex. So that is a big benefit for the Hatchet. But the Hatchet also wants to be typically in builds that go more glass cannon. You don't see typically any medium armor hatchets, a lot of light armor hatchets, and you need a lot of, you know, maneuverability to kind of get in and out of fights, which the Greatsword does not bring. But I can definitely see a case to be made that there's going to be a build out there that is going to be an absolute nuisance and be S tier with Greatsword Hatchet. Next, we have Great Axe, and we're going to go straight down to the D. I'm just kidding, S tier. Yeah, the Greatsword, or the Greatsword Great Axe is just going to be a staple, I think. I think you're going to see this a lot in Wars. I think you're going to see this a ton in OPR. It has 2 maneuverability skills if you want them, and Charge, and Whirlwind, which Whirlwind is not as good. Whirlwind's more of like a war skill, but it has Catch with Gravity Well. It has Catch with Reap. It has Speed with Bloodlust. This is just going to be an insanely good combo. Honestly, it's probably going to be the best weapon to pair with it by a long shot. You're going to go 300, 200. You're basically going to go your typical Great Axe Warhammer build, but instead of Warhammer, you're going to slot in your Greatsword. It's going to be a little bit different because you're not going to have the hard CC, but you're going to have a lot more tankiness and a lot of stance swapping and do a lot more damage than with the Warhammer. I think this is just going to be what ends up being the best combo with it. Next, we have an interesting one in Rapier. And honestly, this is definitely, I think, an A category. This could possibly be an S category weapon. So watch out for this. But I think if you scale 300 dex off of it and maybe go 50 strength to get that extra out, maybe go 100 strength and do like a more of a glass cannon build. I think the glass cannon builds are really going to be good with Rapier. And it's very unfortunate because I don't think people want to see Greatsword Rapiers running out there, but I think they have the potential to do the absolute most amount of like havoc because you'll be able to get in there. You'll have a lot of survivability with the Rapier. If you didn't know, the way the Greatsword works is if you go into your onslaught stance but need to get out of it really quick and you don't want to use an ability or you don't have an ability up or you don't want to dodge for 2 seconds, you can actually just weapon swap and lose your onslaught. So I think that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to have to play with, and your back bar is going to be very, very important for Greatsword. But I think the Rapier has the possibility to be absolutely crazy with the Greatsword. Now, the Rapier does receive 2 nerfs on the PTR, which they will affect it a decent amount. It won't make the Rapier out of the meta, but it will give it a couple nerfs as well. But I think this has the possibility of definitely being an S tier combination. But I don't think people are going to want to go that route because the Rapier, you know, people really don't like the Rapier. But I think if you get some crazy builds, like, you know, you have Spear Rapier, I think Greatsword Rapier could probably be even stronger. Next, we have Spear, and this is the weapon that everybody's been like, Parfax, this is the best weapon for it. And honestly, I'm going to put it in the A tier. Now, I definitely think in the A tier, you know, we have basically these 3 weapons, actually, even like these 4 weapons are all like really close to A+. You have this one's probably solid A, but I definitely can see a case for the Spear to be in the S tier. I just don't think it really covers, like I said, the reason why I'm not putting it up there, and the 2 weapons that are up there currently are weapons that all around get the deficiencies of the Greatsword. This doesn't have the maneuverability of the other 2 weapons up top, which is the reason why it is not up there. If this had more maneuverability, this would definitely be up in the S tier. It is also just a single target weapon, like the sword, but the sword has a little bit more gap closing potential. It has a very nice hard CC. The Spear has a nice hard CC as well, but it doesn't have that gap closing potential. The sword also gives you a little bit more tankiness, and actually it still provides a ton of damage. So the Spear does a ton of damage. Don't get me wrong. The problem with the Spear is its best attribute is probably its actual output and consistent damage, which the Greatsword isn't going to lack anyway. The Greatsword's more of a burst damage weapon than a consistent damage weapon, but I think I'm pretty positive this is going to be A and not S. I know a lot of people believe it is going to be S tier. So tell me in the comment section down below if you think this is just going to be the best weapon to pair with the Greatsword. But I definitely think it is a good weapon. I think it's going to be a weapon that some people do play with it, and some people are going to get very good with those 2 weapon combo. But I definitely think it is in the A tier and not the S tier. Next, we have Void Gauntlet. We're just going to put Void Gauntlet in the B tier. Now, the Void Gauntlet, I definitely can see a case to be made for some like kind of meme support builds. If you want to go like tank, I think this could be a very good option. If you're looking to do more of like a Void Gauntlet support, but the problem is a lot of the tanks, and I'm talking about more like support tanks, go VG, IG, and IG just provides more utility than Greatsword. The Void Gauntlet obviously gives the most utility out of any weapon in the game, but the Greatsword isn't going to provide a ton of group utility, which is the reason why I think VG, IG is just going to be straight up better, and you'll be able to scale off of int and have both weapons scale off of int. But I can see a case to be made that you can run like a, you know, Death Knight type of ability where if you can get a scream off, maybe get a crosscut if the scream, I don't know the exact timing, but they can just dodge it. They won't be able to dodge every one of the hits. They just got to make sure they dodge that last one or they're probably going to die. But I think it's a fine weapon. Is probably a combination I do plan on trying, but I don't think it's going to be particularly amazing. And again, we are going to scale this not off of int. We definitely would scale this off of strength or dex. All right, guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this tier list. We have 2 in the A, a lot in, or sorry, 2 in the S, a lot in the A. Then we have a couple Bs, 1 C, and 2 Ds. Honestly, I mean, don't use it with the musket, please. You're gonna be really sad. I know you degen musket boys are gonna use rapier no matter what, but yeah, it just pairs so horribly with the musket. But all right, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Like always, let me know in the comment section down below where I went right and where I went wrong. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.